beloved with a love that was more than love, a love that the winged seraphs of heaven coveted, by Edgar Allan Poe. Juan always loved poems. Our first date, on our first date, I knew that there was something beautiful in store for me with Juan Jose. I fell passionately in love with him, and I knew that he was going to eventually be my husband. And then the next day, I started praying and asking God, okay, if he's going to be my husband, teach me how to take care of him and make him happy. Every day with Juan Jose has meant deepening love, understanding, sharing, great times, trials, health issues, and knowing that our love was stronger than any difficulty as long as we had God to help us. After 45 years, my heart still soars when I was with him. And when I think about Juan Jose and our life together, our great love came from God. And people say, well, how did you meet Juan Jose? Well, I met him in the jacuzzi in an apartment building called Meadow Creeks. That's true. There were other people around, and we were all talking. And when I saw that, wow, he's a good-looking guy. He was very nice, and he was a very fine gentleman. And we became friendly. We would talk along with other people. And then, but I never thought he'd ever ask me out for a date. All the other girls chased him, and I just wasn't into chasing him, so I didn't chase him. But I just thought, well, he'll never ask me out for a date. Then on Monday, August the 13th, Juan asked me out to dinner. And I was surprised, and I said, yes, I would love to go. When we got out of the jacuzzi and went to our apartments, our separate apartments, and Juan said, I'll pick you up in 15 minutes. I said, okay. So I quickly ran to my apartment, got dressed. I started blow drying my hair, which was very long. It was down to here at the time, very thick. And then all of a sudden my doorbell rang, and there was Juan, and looking very handsome in his charcoal gray suit. And he said, well, are you ready to go? I said, well, I was going to blow dry my hair. Juan said, well, let's go. And I thought, well, if it doesn't upset Juan and bother him that my hair is wet, then it's not going to bother me. So off we went to Yamato's Japanese restaurant at the in West LA. Then on our second date, Juan asked me to drive him out to Foothill Presbyterian Hospital, which was about 40 miles. He said, I'm really, really tired. I worked hard all day, and would you mind driving me out to the hospital? And I said, no, I'd love to. And from that point on, I was a chauffeur. And then he wanted to see his patients, so he saw the patients. Then we went to a Mexican restaurant called Neri Eats for dinner on Sunset Boulevard in Los Angeles. And then we just loved being together, and from that time on, we were together every evening and every weekend, and I just didn't want to be with anybody else but Juan Jose. We had a lot of great times together. As I said earlier, we went to church, and every Sunday we went to the Philharmonic Orchestra, to the Hollywood Bowl, musicals, ballet, soccer games, the Dodger game, the Laker games, and the final game of World Cup soccer between Germany and the Netherlands. And on that, he said to me, I'm going to take you home early tonight because I'm picking up at 5 o'clock tomorrow morning because the final game between Germany and Netherlands is being played, the World Cup soccer. I said, okay, I'll be ready. And I thought, what is World Cup soccer? I had no idea. I really didn't have a clue. But I didn't care. As long as we were together, I was happy. Then in the fall, Juan told me that he was going to take his two aunts from Guadalajara out for dinner, but he wasn't going to introduce me to them yet because he didn't know where our relationship was going. Maybe he didn't know, but I knew. So then a few hours later, Juan rang my doorbell, and when I saw him, he said, you are going to meet my two aunts because they are upset I don't have anyone who loves me. I know you love me, and I want them to meet you That was Aunt Josefina,
My mother.
her mother.
My mother.
and then Aunt Angelita.
My aunt.
That's
My
right,
mother's sister.
One's aunt.
Rivera. Rivera.
So we went out for dinner, and then Tia Josefina, called Tia, it's in Spanish for aunt. She third degree me about my beliefs in God. She wanted to make sure I was a Christian. How was I going to take care of her nephew? Because these two, they really loved this man. It really warmed my heart that they loved him so much. And we had a wonderful evening. And as we drove them back to Juan's cousin's house, Consuelo, they were sitting in the back seat, and they were singing songs from Mexico and harmonizing together. And it was, I still can remember that. It was wonderful to hear them. It was a wonderful memory. Juan also loved playing racquetball, and I had fun watching him. I wasn't very good at sports. And one of Juan's racquetball friends said to me, "Do you know what it's like playing racquetball with Juan?" I said, "No." He said, "It's like playing with 12-year-olds, kids. And it's hard to keep up with him." You know, I had a hard time keeping up with him. He was 10 years older than me. And Juan really couldn't slam the ball hard like the A players, but he could place the ball in the court so nobody else could get it. Anyway, Juan was also very romantic. On Fridays at noon, sometimes when he would get off early, he would call me and say, "Can you meet me down at Lafayette Park Place, and I'll have our picnic lunch ready." You know, so I go down there, and here he was, picnic blanket, Pioneer chicken, little transistor radio, playing music, and then we'd have lunch, and oh, I had a hard time going back to work, but I did. And we both loved music, and we loved opera, and we used to sing together in the house, like operatic, asking each other questions in opera style. It was just fun to do that. And then Juan decided we're going to join the Hispanics for LA Opera. And Placido Domingo was our honorary president of that group. Well, we never expected to see him. And then one evening we were having a social hour, and some opera singers were going to be singing some songs. All of a sudden, Placido Domingo walks in, sits next down to Juan, and he says, "How do you do?" He says, "My name is Placido Domingo," like we didn't know who he was. And Juan said, "And I'm Dr. Medina, and this is my wife, Donna." And then we asked him, they talked in Spanish, of course, and then Juan asked, "Well, could we take a picture of you with you?" And he said, "Of course." And then another friend of his that he grew up with, and most Americans do not know Marco Antonio Muniz, but Marco Antonio Muniz was the Bing Crosby and Frank Sinatra of all Mexico, Central America, Latin America, South America, and Spain. And he was very, very famous. And Juan took me to see him at the $1 Million Theater on Broadway in Los Angeles. When I heard him, I thought, wow, this guy's really got a wonderful voice. And then Juan said, "Oh, well, we're going to go backstage and see him." I thought, yeah, right, he knows him. And then he asked the guy at the stage, security officer, said, "Tell Marco that Juan Jose Medina is here to see him." And so we waited, and all of a sudden this guy on stage comes out, "Juan Jose, ¿cómo estado? I'm so glad to see you." And they were hugging each other. He does know him. And how he knew him is that he was born and grew up in the same neighborhood that Juan grew up in. So that's how they knew each other. And then we also traveled to many countries, and it was, oh, can I move this over?
Yeah, sure. The sun's kind of moving, isn't it?
Anyway, we did travel to a lot of different countries. We had a lot of great times. And one thing that Juan taught me, he said, "Okay, before we travel, we're going to get a book, and we're going to read about the country to learn a little bit about how they do things, their history, and how they live life." And it was always a lot of fun. And one time, we decided to go to Salzburg when we were staying in Vienna as a side trip. And then there's a few people in our group that wanted to go, but they wanted to stay in town. We decided to take the Sound of Music tour. And then when we got back, our tour group was gone. And so there's a taxi cab there. And so I thought, well, why don't you just tell him to take us to the train station? So Juan asked him in English, can you take us to the train station? Gentleman did not understand. He asked him in Spanish. The taxi cab driver only knew Austrian German, and we didn't know German. So I said, but Juan, what are we going to do? And he thought a minute, and he got a twinkle. He says, oh, I know. Choo, 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 choo. So we got in the cab, and off we went to the train station. It was amazing. But we have a lot of fun times. I know he was a very romantic person. And one time when he did take me to the World Congress of Anesthesiologists seminar, which happens once every 4 years in Mexico City. And doctors from all over the world come to that seminar. Then afterwards he said, well, let's go take a tour down to Tosco, which is a silver mining and gold mining town. And we had a great time there. We had a wonderful dinner, one restaurant, and I asked, well, I like the place. Do you think they would sell us 4 plates? And then they said, yes, they would. And then we saw this jewelry shop, and we went inside, and they had these long tables with no glass on top of all the jewelry. And so I asked the cashier, I said, well, is this all costume jewelry? He said, oh no, this is real stones, rubies, garnets, all set in 18-karat gold. Well, since my first stone is ruby, I decided to go to the ruby section. I was having fun trying on rings. Juan was watching me. And then Juan disappeared, and I didn't pay attention to what he was doing. And then he came back, and he said, you see that ruby ring right there? And I said, uh-huh. He said, try it on one more time. So I said, okay. I tried it on. He said, happy birthday. I just bought it for you.
Oh.
That wasn't even my birthday yet. He would do things like that, and it was just wonderful. But anyway, he did help me to become even a better office building manager. He always encouraged me to do the things I didn't think I could do. I wanted to get my real estate license. He said, well, go get your license. Just go study for it and get your license, and I did. And then he taught me how to negotiate real estate deals. And then he also taught me how to live life better. What he always said is, when you're doing something, you focus 100% on whatever it is that you're doing, whether it's at work, play, or sleeping, or at church. And I thought, wow, that was something I had to contemplate, and I learned to do. And then, we both love God very, very deeply. And every day for us was a gift from God. I always felt very, very blessed that God brought us together and gave us a great love. Our great love really came from God. And I still feel His love even today. And I got him this one card, and I want to read what I wrote to him. I said, Juan Jose, God has blessed us with a wonderful love for one another. I love living with you and traveling life's road with you. God brought us together and gave us a wonderful life. And truly, I felt it was a true privilege to be his wife, to take care of him, be a chauffeur, and even in his illness, I know he said to me, you work so hard, is it too much for you to take care of me? And I said, no. I said, it's a privilege to take care of you. And he always thanked me every day, saying, thank you very much for taking care of me, and I love you. You are the great love of my life, and you always will be the great love of my life. And God gave us a great marriage because God was first in our life. And I have this poem that's hanging on our wall in our bed when I came across, that marriage takes 3. It takes God, a husband, and wife. Mm-hmm. And then I signed it, and we always signed it like this: your eternal love ye and wife, Donna. And he always signed your eternal lover and husband.
Thank you.